And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right. I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you loved it so much you wanted to come back for more. Folks, that's an absolutely brilliant decision. I'm going to tell you why, because we have a lot more for you. Why do we have so much more for you? Because this is the podcast. It's about podcasters, it's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. And our guest today, amongst many other things, is also wait for it, a podcaster. See, you are brilliant. I told you guys, you're in the right spot and you're doing what we need to be doing. So, all right, folks, this is where we all come together to raise each other up. And this is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So let's get sailing and bring in this fabulous guest today. You guys are going to hear this and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. This young lady is, she's a podcast producer at Buzzsprout, and she's also the co-host of something I know you all know, which is Buzzcast, okay? The show. So folks, please welcome to the show, Jordan Blair. Jordan, how you doing?
I'm doing so great. Thank you, Rory. You know how people have celebrity lookalikes? You have a celebrity sound-alike. And I don't know
Uh-oh.
if you've gotten this before. You sound just like Will Arnett. It's
Wow.
wild. Yeah.
I have not heard that before.
And he has a great voice. So this is a major compliment.
Well, okay. Thank you. I'll take any compliment I can get, even if I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I'm going to have to look up Will Arnett, though. No.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was, yeah, Lego Batman.
Oh,
Great
goodness
voice.
gracious. Really? I
Yeah.
sound like Lego Batman? Oh, man. Well, I mean, now you're hitting home because I'm kind of a geek, so that's really awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm texting my kids when I get off of this
Yeah.
this interview today, just to prove it. Well, thank you for that, Jordan. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
I've never heard that, so wow, a first right off the bat.
I can't believe I'm the first person that said it because it is uncanny.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I tell you what, you've got quite a story, and you've been doing this for 7 years. You've produced 6 shows. Tell us a little bit about Jordan. Who is Jordan Blair, and how do you even get into doing all of this podcast stuff?
I mean, Jordan Blair from the beginning was always like a theater kid and an extrovert and an artistic and creative. And it's really funny because my one of my first jobs I had was as a children's librarian, and I was like a youth like events coordinator. And so I would throw like pirate and princess balls and like Lego building competitions and like summer concert series. And I was always dressing up for like theme weeks. And it was just like amazing. And then I had to get a big kid job and I went and worked for an accounting firm. And I worked there for like 7 years. And I actually worked my way up and I got really good at bookkeeping, which is funny because you'd think like an artistic type person, how would they land there? But it was just out of necessity, right? And the funny thing about bookkeeping, which I'm sure is not going to be a shock to anybody, is it's very boring. It is so mindless. And I was very much at the accounting firm like the kid who, which it's really funny because I was this kid, in like classrooms when they talk too much, like I was a bit of a social butterfly. And so my desk would always get moved out in the hallway, you know what I mean? To finish my work away from people. And it was very much like that at the accounting firm too. I was always in like the back office or in the basement office. And that's like where Jordan was. And I was so bored because what a lot of people don't realize about like, doing bookkeeping and payroll is nowadays, I mean, the computers just do it for you. It is the most mindless work I could have done. And, you know, after I think like 5 years of that or something like that, it was just, I needed something to keep my brain going. And I discovered podcasts and I was excited to go to work because I knew that I just got to listen to podcasts all day while I'm like punching numbers and, creating profit and loss sheets and stuff like that. And I just absolutely fell in love. And it was like, oh my gosh, there's a podcast about like everything I love, anything, any TV show I was watching, there was a podcast for that, any book I was into, or any like urban legends. Oh my gosh, there's true crime documentary podcasts. So it's like I'm listening to a documentary while I'm working. I mean, it was just incredible. And so after I left the accounting firm, I wasn't really sure like what I was going to do. And I got my kids into podcasts and they wanted to listen to podcasts to go to sleep. And so I was like, well, yes, of course. There's a podcast for that. There's a podcast for everything. And so I went and looked and in the podcast apps, like I searched up, kids' bedtime stories,
Mm,
and a lot of
yeah.
them were geared toward children that were perhaps in like the toddler age or kindergarten sort of age. A lot of them had very like bright voices to them, so it actually wasn't that good for bedtime. And they were, 5 to 13 minutes. And my kids, there's no chance that they're going to sleep in 5 to 13 minutes. Like that just doesn't exist. And so I couldn't find what I was looking for. I was like, I want something like the Calm app. You remember the Calm app? I think they're still around, but like they
Hmm.
would just have these gorgeous like celebrity narratives and then like this ambient music underneath it. And I was like, I want that. But I don't want to pay $60 a month. Well, I guess I'll just make it.
There you go. All right.
Yeah. And so I Googled how to start a podcast. I went to YouTube, how to start a podcast. And of course, I found all the great things, Dave Jackson School of Podcasting, Podcasters Roundtable, and like the a Buzzcast, the How to Start a Podcast series from Buzzsprout. I mean, all of those things, podcasting Q&A. And I was like, oh, this is great. I have podcasts about podcasting. And so I listened to all of them. I absolutely fell in love with, these major characters in podcasting and and I learned so much from them, but I still didn't start yet because I was really timid about the equipment aspect of it. I feel like there's a big block with podcasting equipment, especially if you have no background in audio. So it's like, I had the theater background of doing voice work and I knew I could do all that kind of stuff. I'm artistic. Of course, I can do like gorgeous ambient music bedding. I know how to do that stuff. I just know I do. But the actual act of getting on a microphone or even like picking out a microphone and picking out software was really scary for me. And it was really funny because my husband one day he was like, "Look, you've been studying this for like 3 months. You're done. Like you know everything there is to know about podcasting at this point. You just haven't started it yet." And so he went and bought the equipment for me. It was just like, "Here, you have no excuse."
Nice.
And yeah, and after that I started my show and because I had just ravenously consumed everything there was to consume about podcasting, I got involved in the Buzzsprout Facebook community group, which is huge. It's like when I started there was like 40,000 members or something like that.
Yeah.
Awesome people, like super great. And I was just like helping people, helping people, helping people. And I was again that kid in school that like got their desk put out in the hallway. And it was like I was bugging the moderators so much that they finally were like, "Do you just want to be a moderator?" And, and so I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. This is great. Like I can just take care of all these things myself." And after that, I was invited by Buzzsprout to go to Podcast Movement. And so they took me to Podcast Movement and I got to do like a speaking engagement there. And then they invited me to guest on Buzzcast, which was a huge moment for me because I was a Buzzcast super fan. I told you, like, I listened to all these podcasts about podcasting religiously, like twice over, especially Buzzcast. Like, I listened to that easily 2 times, like maybe 3 times through. And I love the guys. Like, I loved how funny they were and just real about everything. And it was a joy. And so, getting asked to be on that show, I mean, I was like freaking out. And so, yeah, I went on there and I was like, okay, I probably didn't do that great because we're always our toughest critic. And I was like, I'm never gonna be asked to be on there again. Like that was, I was a bit much. They're not gonna have me back on. And then they did have me back on. And then like a few months later, they were like, hey, we're looking for a podcast producer. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. And so they invited me back on again. And I thought to myself, I was like, is this an audition? Like, is this my chance? And so I just like did my best and hoped for the best. And then they came back to me and they brought me on as a producer. And I mean, the rest is history. I've been there for years now and it's been just awesome.
Wow. What a story. I mean, okay, so you're a speaker before you're really even trying to be a speaker. You're a podcaster before you're trying to be a podcaster, which is kind of awesome. Your first show, you've referenced this a couple of times. What was the first show?
It was Dreamful Bedtime Stories.
Okay, so you did. You stayed true to what got you into it. We're trying to get that for the kids. So
Yeah.
dreamful bedtime stories. And you don't do that
Mhm.
anymore, or you do?
I do. I'm taking like a short break just because I'm more focused like on a few other things. We got a lot coming up down the way here. And so, just to make sure I don't burn out, I'm just taking a little break from it. And then I'm going to be returning probably this month to it. Um, but yeah, my listeners have been reaching out a lot. They're like,
I'll bet.
hey,
All
are
right.
you coming back? But
That's
yeah, so
fantastic.
I mean, Dreamful, it was such a weird thing. I mean, you had mentioned earlier that I actually I don't remember if you mentioned this in the actual recording.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm just gonna say it. Um, So what's really funny about Dreamfall is I just built it for my kids and I intentionally made it just for my kids. And I wasn't expecting other people to listen to it. Like I made a couple posts on social media like, "Hey, I'm starting this thing." My husband posted about it. Literally none of my friends cared. Literally no one in my family cared. Like
Hmm.
nobody cared. And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, this is fine. Like it's just a creative outlet. It's cool. And it was so wild because I think I just struck a niche. Like I just found something like it's because I created what I was looking for. And so it resonated with other people and it just like took off. And it was so funny because I was keeping at it for a while and it was like, I mean, honestly, I launched with like 75 downloads an episode, which I was like, that's nuts. That's crazy. And then it grew into like suddenly I'd be getting like a couple hundred downloads when I like would release a new episode. I was just like, that's weird. And then I my kids were really busy with school stuff. Like schools just love to cram everything into spring. It is
Hmm.
nuts. And so I was like, you know what? No one like really listens to podcasts. So I'm just gonna take a break. And so I took a break from it and I just like focused on my family and making sure everything was taken care of at the house. And all of a sudden I got like Buzzsprout sends these really fun, it's literally one of my favorite things ever. They send these really fun achievement emails when you hit a milestone, and it's like confetti and like this achievement badge, and you get to share it. And I kept getting like achievement emails from them, and it was just like, "Hey, congrats! You reached 5,000 downloads, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000." I was like, "Whoa, what's happening?" Like it just scared me, and I had nightmares about it. I was literally having nightmares, like waking up with sweats because I just wasn't wanting, I don't know. I wasn't making for it for other people. And it just like took off. And it got to the point where my podcast was in Chartable as the number one growing podcast globally for like a week. Like like out of any podcast in any
Wow.
category, it was just like it just skyrocketed. And I felt like I was just like strapped to a rocket that I didn't volunteer to get into. It was really scary. And then like once I got my bearings and once I realized like, oh wait, this is actually kind of cool because now I can run listener surveys and I can like interact with people and it gave me once I got comfortable with it, it gave me the confidence to actually start engaging with my audience and like owning it. Like,
Mm.
yeah, this is awesome. Still, none of my friends or family listened to it, but it did great.
I love that part. I'm sorry, but that's people don't understand that. That when
Yeah.
you start a podcast, the people who know you, that you would sort of hope would support you, want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I
They're
mean, you have to realize like your friends and family might not be your target audience, and that is okay.
that is
They
okay.
do not have to listen to your podcast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all my podcasts are on Buzzsprout too, so I know what you're talking about with those little
Great.
achievement emails. And you're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, great. This is cool.
they're so
Um,
fun.
but this is, I mean, I love the story, and you're such the reluctant like superstar, with what you're doing. And it's really amazing. When you talk about getting picked up by Buzzsprout and them kind of noticing you, do you think that they noticed you from the podcast or from you like interacting on the question? And I'm curious if you lean one way or the other.
Oh man, I have a really funny story about this, actually. I was the first person in the history of Buzzsprout. They've been around for like 15 years. I was the first person in history to email them that they weren't actually charging me enough and I needed them to like fix it. Because my podcast just like it went nuts. And I came from a bookkeeping background. And so in my mind, I was like, the mistake that I see a lot of like business people make is they don't have a budget and they don't like anticipate things and they don't prepare for things. And so I was getting to the point where like my podcast had exploded to where I was like, oh, this could be a thing. This could be my job. I can make this a side hustle or whatever. And so I needed to budget for it. And at the time, there was like a bandwidth usage like surcharge, but it's like you would have to get tens of hundreds of thousands of downloads a month to even meet it. And I was like, when I signed up, I was like, it's no problem, whatever. Like, who cares about that? And then
Right.
it got to the point where I was getting hundreds of thousands of downloads a month. And I was just like, oh no, okay. So like I need to figure out how much they're gonna like surcharge me. And so I wrote them, I'm like, hey, you guys actually like aren't charging me enough. It's been a few months and I'm kind of like, I need to know how much it is. And then they came up and they're like, actually, like, do you just want to like be essentially it was like a program that they had at the time, which was like the creator group. And so I just got to be on Buzzsprout and I didn't have to pay for it. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Right.
And so yeah, I think that in combination, like getting their attention that way because they thought it was hilarious. Um, and I was on their like bandwidth usage kind of list, like little watch list in the company, which I found out later. And then also being kind of very social in the Facebook community group. I think that those things, like, I just kept bobbing up over the surface of the water. And they were like, oh, it's Jordan again. And I would just go back down and do my thing. And I'd bob up again. And I think I just like constantly was um in their view and constantly engaged with them and like I really loved Buzzsprout. I still do, but like I really loved Buzzsprout as a company. I loved the people that were working there and the support team. Like it's crazy because it's just like a small support team and it's all these like people in Jacksonville and you like get to know them. And it's crazy because the people you get to know, like those are the people that are there and they're running the show and they're helping everybody. And I don't know, I really vibed with that, I guess. And so I became like a really big advocate for them and a cheerleader and just encouraging other people, like, yeah, this is great. It's so easy. Come here. And yeah, so I think I was just constantly in their view.
Okay. I mean, so you created your own noise, in a lot of
Yeah.
ways to be noticed with everything you were doing. So,
Yeah.
but you were on the radar already because of your podcast blowing up the way it was.
Yeah,
That's
a
really
little
cool.
bit. Yeah. So I think it's one of those things like sometimes I feel like, man, I don't know what I did. Like I got so lucky. This is just crazy. Like how lucky am I? And a little bit of that is capturing lightning in a bottle. It was a lot of luck. And I also think that there's a huge amount of being in the right place at the right time. And sometimes that means you have to be like everywhere and you have to be constantly visible and you always have to be in those places. And
Yeah.
you can't just be sitting at home by yourself and hoping someone's going to notice you and hoping that you're going to get your like chance, like your lightning shot kind of thing. And part of that, especially with podcasters, we're typically I'm an extrovert, but we're typically very like introverted individuals and we just like to be behind our computers, but there's ways to be involved. I mean, even just guesting on other podcasts and getting to know people, like making friends with other podcasts in your niche and like nerding out with them. Like there's so many ways to get to be visible to these companies and to like have an opportunity to be brought into these circles and stuff like that. Even if you are just in your basement with a microphone, you can still do these kinds of things, right?
Yeah, for sure. I love that. The barrier to entry, is
Yeah,
low if you want to get involved with these things. That's wonderful.
absolutely.
Yeah. So this was your first podcast, and this is the one that kind of started everything. Now, since then, you've produced other podcasts, and there was another one that was for you, right?
Yeah, it's really funny. It was my husband wanted to do a podcast. And so I'm a little bit of like the researcher producer on that. And it's like it's him and his friend. They wanted to start a podcast. And I was like, okay, well, you're married to me, so you're doing it right.
I mean, the bar is set kind of high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so we've been working on that. It's doing great. It's getting lots of traction, which is super fun. The guys are having so much fun with it. And I love fun projects like that. And then yeah, the other podcasts, they're all like Buzzsprout shows. We've got like Buzzcast, obviously, and Happy to Help and Podcasting Q&A. And now we have Buzzsprout Weekly, which is like the newsletter one, which those short little podcasts,
Hmm.
man, they're great. You just crank them out really fast, especially when you're doing multiple shows that are over like an hour. I
Hmm.
mean, it's awesome when you're able to put out just those like quick little
For sure.
podcasts.
For sure. I love that you're speaking of that too. When I'm talking to folks, very often they don't see the value in a short podcast that's like powerful.
hmm
What's too short in your mind?
I don't know, 5 seconds? Whatever those
Hello,
Vine
welcome to the show.
videos are.
Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Like those, I think Vine videos wouldn't make a very good podcast. But I think, it's really funny because at Buzzsprout, we always say like a podcast should be exactly as long as it needs to be because there's no magic number. We have these long form podcasters. I mean, I listen to some of them. There's some podcasts I listen to that are 3 hours long. And you know what? I just get to them when I get to them. It's like an audiobook. Like
Yeah.
if I'm folding laundry, I'm gonna listen to that a little bit and then I'll stop and I'll like get back to whatever. And then, while I'm driving, I will say, all right, I'm gonna continue this conversation and I'll listen to it. And then you have podcasts that are 45 minutes and everyone's like, oh, that's a sweet spot. That's exactly where you need to be. No, it's really not. There's some 45-minute podcasts that frustrate me that they're 45 minutes because I want them to be 2 hours long. And so there's such a wide variety. And, we've got so many podcasts that are 2 minutes long. And they do really well because it's just these like quick hits. And they've been at it for years because it's easy to do a 2-minute podcast.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think your podcast should just be as long as it needs to be. Like don't be cutting down your conversations and taking out the essence of the interview or the value of the interview just because you feel like you need to shove it into this 45-minute box.
Yeah.
Like that just doesn't work. Or if you have an interview that, maybe it was interesting for the first 20 minutes and then after that it kind of got off topic and, the person wasn't very interesting or their energy got kind of low or they got distracted by their dog doing something, cut it. It's a 20-minute episode. And you know what? Just keep that 20 minutes of gold. It's so important to not be so married to this idea that your podcast has to be exactly within these, I don't know, time frames.
I love that. I really do. I assume people kind of like come to you for advice a lot. Is it kind of like a doctor where, hey doc, my arm hurts over here? Are podcasters coming to you all the time going, hey Jordan, can you, give me some secret to marketing, that I don't know?
Oh my gosh, yes. And I never thought about it like that. But the second you said that, I had a flashback to being at a cocktail party at Podfest, and someone came up to me and he's like, "Yeah, I can't get anyone to join my Buzzsprout subscription." And I'm like, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, I say I have a call to action in every single episode." I'm like, well, gosh, like where are you putting your call to action? He's like, oh yeah, at the end of every episode, I say that you need to like subscribe to the thing. And I'm like, nope. There's your problem. And it's so funny because I always get these things where they're like, my episodes aren't ranking. I'm like, well, do you have your episode number in the title? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, there you go. It's just like these quick little things. And I love it so much because it's so fun when you're able to just kind of identify what you think might be the issue. And then they're like, well, yeah, I do that. And it's like, there's a problem. It's so fun.
Wow. All right. So, but you do. People are just kind of hitting you all the time. I mean, especially after they find
Yeah.
out who you are and that you work for Buzzsprout, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean it's starting to it's really ironic because I couldn't get any family to listen to my podcast, and now suddenly my family members are wanting to start podcasts, and I'm like, Jordan, can you come over? Like we'll watch the kids, and you can help us start our YouTube channel or whatever.
Got it. I mean, watching the
Yeah.
kids might be a good trade-off. Depends on how bad you
Oh,
need that date night.
1000%. Absolutely.
Right
Always good
on.
trade. Yeah.
Younger kids?
My oldest just turned 14
Okay.
and my youngest is going to turn 9.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
middle kids right in there. So
Middle kids,
yeah.
yeah. I mean honestly, they're I feel really bad for my husband. Like they're both Xerox copies of me, super high energy, really intense personalities, and it's a lot in our house. Both girls.
Wow. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
he's the lone guy with three of you.
Yeah. And luckily he's extremely patient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody has a dynamic that works, so I understand.
It's true.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I have three, and they're all grown and gone. So
Oh,
empty
really?
nesting is a totally different thing. But
Oh.
well, I tell you what,
Well,
cherish every moment while you have them there,
oh,
because
sure. Yeah.
when
I
they're not asking you for hey mom this, hey mom that, it's like wow, crickets. It's lonely out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that like even when they're in their 20s, they're still coming like, "Hey Dad, can you help me with this thing?" or whatever.
Yeah, the difference is when they're in their 20s, you're grateful. You're like, oh, yes, I can help you because,
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
see you anymore. So I'd love to help you. Please call me. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had the thing where we couldn't wait for them to be old enough to be on their own. So like having my oldest be 14, she can now babysit, which is awesome. Because we would reminisce about, do you remember when we just like leave the house? Do you remember when we just go get groceries and we could just like walk out the door and get it? We could just pick up that thing real quick. Like we would just reminisce about that. And so I do, cherish the toddler cuddles and how cute and fun they are, but I love having teenagers. It is the best. And I can tell them, "Hey, mom's recording, be quiet." And they'll just be like, "Sure, whatever." And they'll go on their tablet and go upstairs and they leave me alone. It's awesome.
Hey, goals. I mean, hey, that works out. All right. It's perfect. All
Yeah.
right. I'm curious about this. So you are employed by Buzzsprout and then still have your own podcast as an independent podcaster. Yes?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
And
So they've kind of brought it into the Buzzsprout family. So if you go to the Buzzsprout about page, like Dreamful Bedtime Stories is listed as like a Buzzsprout podcast. It's like an honorary Buzzsprout podcast, which is really
ah,
funny. They've just kind of said, "Sorry, Jordan, like it's Buzzsprout now."
so they sort of usurped your
Yeah,
podcast because
which
you're
is
working with
fine.
them.
I
All
keep
right, I get it.
100% of the proceeds though.
Perfect. I'm glad you went there.
Yeah.
Did you had you had the opportunity? I know you said you took a break and it kind of started, growing and exploding, and you were getting your updates. Had you had a chance to sort of turn the podcast into a business when it was you on your own, or did more of that happen after you connected with Buzzsprout in that capacity?
Oh yeah, I mean, I did Dreamful for I want to say 3 years, maybe a little bit longer
Hmm.
before I even joined Buzzsprout. As like I started my podcast on Buzzsprout as a hosting site, but
Sure.
I was brought onto the Buzzsprout team years later, and by then it had become a business for me. Um, I was basically making a lot of my money through listener subscriptions, like bonus content and like affiliate marketing and sponsorships and things like that. And I was able to hire like my best friend to edit the show for me. So then I was like starting, which is super cool to like start delegating tasks that you don't enjoy because I used to hate editing so much. And I like it now, but I used to hate it. It was the bane of my existence. And so the second I made enough money to hire an editor, I was like, done. Like, check. And
Gotcha.
so, yeah, so I did have it, I ran it as a business for probably like a solid year or so before joining Buzzsprout. And now it's just kind of like it just kind of funds my best friend still editing the episodes for the most part. I don't make any money off of it myself. It just kind of sits in that account now. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Gotcha. A little passive income off on the
Mhm.
side there.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, you had a successful podcast, or I don't mean had like it's not anymore, but you built this successful podcast. Now,
Yeah.
once you joined Buzzsprout, was there anything where you were like, wow, now that I've learned this, I've been doing this wrong all this time? Or were you just like right on the nose and maybe that's why they brought you on?
You know what's funny is the only thing I can think of that really stood out to me as man, I've been doing this, I've been making this hard for myself for so many years. And what that was my apprehension to upgrading my podcast equipment. I was scared of roadcasters and XLR cables and all that stuff. I mean, I did this podcast through an MV7 plugged into a USB like directly into my laptop. I was scared of having equipment around. Like it spooked me.
Yeah.
And it's funny because working with the guys, like they just slowly got me into that, and now I've gone full gearhead. I love it. Like the more gear, the better. And I realized like this isn't scary. This is fine. Like this is fun. And so there's that is part of one of the things that I learned working from there. And then also I was spending way too much time fine editing things.
Mm,
I mean, I was just meticulous, which I think is part of what helped my podcast get big so quickly is that I'm an absolute perfectionist, like to a fault. I'm a perfectionator, which is like a mix between a perfectionist and a procrastinator. Like it's that whole thing,
mm.
like it doesn't have to be done, it just has to be perfect.
Wow.
I live and die by that. And that's something that I've like has slowly been like worked out of me through this and through interacting with other podcasters. And it gets to the point where, you're giving out all this podcasting advice and you have to start going, gosh, am I actually living this? Am I actually, I'm saying like, hey, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like just get it out there. It's probably so much better than you think it is. And then at some point I have to go, okay, self-talk. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Like people are not
Right.
even going to be noticing because they're going to be out grocery shopping when they're listening to this thing. They're not focused on every little intonation of my voice or every little thing. And I think that was something that when I joined Buzzsprout, I had to let go of because it doesn't work that well when you are producing a whole handful of shows. It was fine when I had just one show to worry about and I just had myself to worry about. But then you start adding co-hosts and you start adding guests and you start adding multiple things that you're juggling, and suddenly the perfectionism needs to stop. And I think that was a huge growth moment for me. And I'm actually doing better work since I stopped being a perfectionist, which is not intuitive for me.
Yeah. I mean, good for you and great advice to everybody else who's listening. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. I love that. When when you were doing your own podcast, you obviously were successful with your marketing because it just blew up. So how did you get the word out about the podcast to make it blow up like that? And, do you still sort of do that, with Buzzsprout behind you now?
This is by far the most boring part of my podcast story because the answer is
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what
All right.
happened. I was Googling my podcast. I was like, did Oprah say something about it? Like, what happened? And it was really funny. I really wasn't charting on anything. I would go into Spotify, I'd go into Apple, and I'd go to like the health and wellness or the kids and family charts, and I'm not on there. I'm like, where are these people finding me? I don't, I don't know. And I was like Googling myself. I was Googling my podcast. It wasn't showing up anywhere on anything. It was just going nuts. And I wasn't paying for promotion. I wasn't paying for any like podcast advertising. Honestly, I kind of suck at social media. I'm the worst millennial. I can't do social media. I tried doing it and it's like I would just do like a little artwork for like one episode and like post it and like two people would like it. And it was it's just I don't know. It's really ironic. Like I met somebody at Podcast Movement. We're friends now, but my husband was telling him about my show, and he was like, "Oh, what's it called?" And he looked it up on Instagram, Dreamful Bedtime Stories or Dreamful Podcast, and I had like 300 followers. And he's like, "Oh, well, that's awesome. Like you'll get there. I'm sure you're gonna like get really big." And at that point, I was getting like millions of downloads.
Right.
It just doesn't translate.
At all.
Yeah. And it's one of my favorite stories about that friend because he like once he realized like how many downloads he was actually getting, he felt so mortified. And it was just this really, I mean, which obviously like anyone looking at my show on social media would be like, oh, this like she's not that big, but it's just that I suck at social media. I'm not good at it. And I think that it must have been word of mouth. I had so many people writing in and saying, "Hey, my therapist recommended the show. It's helped so much." Or writing in and saying, "Hey, we actually play your show at our daycare, and I just want to like let you know that all the kids love it." And
Wow.
yeah, and so it was this weird thing, or guys in college would be writing me and be like, "Hey, like I know it's like kind of lame, but I really like your show and it really helps me go to sleep." And so I think
Wow.
it
All
just, yeah,
right.
I think I just filled a niche. I caught lightning in a bottle and it just took off. Like it had to have been like an algorithm picking it up, which I mean, honestly, the algorithms weren't that great in the podcast listening apps at that point. So maybe it was Spotify. I don't know. It was really weird. But yeah, so that is the most boring part of my entire podcasting journey is how I blew up because I have no idea. Not one
Wow.
idea.
I appreciate the fact you're honest about it. You're just like,
Yeah.
I really don't know. I
I
think that's
I tried
fantastic.
figuring out.
That's amazing. All right. Well, if that's the most boring part, then let's spice it up a little bit. All right. This is the question that my corny
Yeah.
question that I ask everybody. Okay. So when it comes to doing your podcast, okay, what is it
hmm
about doing your podcast that you love the most? And what is it about doing your podcast that you absolutely can't stand, throw it out the window, hate the most?
Um, well, if I start with what I love the most about podcasting, I think that what I love the most about it, about any podcast that I've started, any podcast I've been planning or have dreamt about, is that the sky is really the limit. Like the limit is your creativity when it comes to podcasts. And that's really what I feel separates it from video production and, books, things like that, because there's not these limitations upon podcasting that you get with like other mediums. For example, if I were to want to do a science fiction like narrative audio series, if I were to do that on YouTube, I would have to get actors, I would have to get costumes, I would have to get makeup, I'd have to build sets, I'd have to have all this different stuff, and it would take so long. I'd have to get all these different cameras and do tons and tons of editing. But if I'm to do a science fiction audio series that's only audio format, I literally just need my imagination. I can do the voices, I can have friends come and narrate some things. I've got theater friends, I can source them. And instead of building a whole set inside a spaceship, I can just have an audio storytelling bedding happening where it's like bleeps and bloops and maybe like the sound of like an air filter going through the spaceship and it just takes you there because it's a theater of the mind with podcasts. If you want to interview your favorite Survivor players, you can do that with a podcast. You can't go up to their house with a camera and say, "Hey, I'm a really big fan of yours. Like, do you want to talk? Do you want to get coffee?" You can't do that. But if you have a podcast, you can get to know these people that you're fans of, because you're passionate about it and because they're totally down to talk to you. And I just think that that is the coolest thing with podcasting is it's just the limit is your creativity. There's nothing you can't do with a podcast.
I love that. That's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
especially the sky's the limit thing. So, all
Yeah.
right, now we have to address the opposite then. So, what is it that you can't stand about it?
Um, my answer is extremely personal, and it's just a personal thing that I've had. It would have been editing at first. Like if you had asked me this a couple of years ago, I'd be like, "Oh, editing. I hate editing." I've actually grown to love editing, especially, and I think part of this is because I let go of the perfectionism and I'm starting to enjoy it now. I'm starting to enjoy the artistry of taking a disjointed conversation and piecing it together, and nobody knows that it was a bad interview. No one knows that was all over the place and I forgot what I was gonna say. No one knows. Like, it's amazing. But I think what I really hate at this point, just for me, is that I live downtown. And I am a block away from the police station and the firehouse, and there's a bar across the street from me, and there was like a lawnmower shop next door, but they moved out and now it's a CrossFit gym. And we're buddies, but they keep it down for me, but there's still a lot of noise and hooting and hollering, and we've got all those kinds of things. And I live in such a noisy area, which is not conducive to creating audio content. And so that is currently the thing I hate most about podcasting is there's just days where people are parking their refrigerator trucks and like unloading things, and I go, well, guess not today. And that's it.
I love that. It's hilarious because you're saying this as the neighbor decided they're going to start drilling a hole in the wall over on my side,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, I
Hmm.
totally get it. You have no control over that stuff. That
No
is
control.
hilarious. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness gracious. It was funny because if you do a Family Feud style on this question, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like top five answers on the board, editing is almost always the number one answer,
It's
for
hard.
podcasters. And
It's
social
hard.
media is like a close two, but boy, editing is there. So I knew it wasn't going to be that because you already said, yeah, I used to hate it, but I don't now. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
wonder what this answer is going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, noise that you can't control, good one, really good one.
Yeah.
All right, now because you work with Buzzsprout, this may be a little bit of a different question for you as opposed to the average, independent podcaster. But um, in what way do you utilize AI, and what's okay, what's not, and how do you make it work for you?
That is an interesting question. The way that I utilize AI the most is a lot of times through content planning. With Buzzsprout, we have co-host AI, which is a feature where when you upload your audio, we automatically transcribe it for you and it creates, it generates ideas for episode titles, the description, social media post ideas, because if you hate social media, that's really helpful. And it'll generate a blog post and all these different things. And there's just so much that you can do with AI. Like if the post-production aspect of it is something that you can't stand, AI can help with that. I really feel like AI is strongest where you can delegate the things that you absolutely hate. I mean, if I were to use the example of what I hate like the most about podcasting and it's my environment and there's noise in the background and whatever, you know what? There's AI audio editing now where you can run your bad audio through this AI filter and it will identify what those noises are and just kind of like take them out for you. And then it sounds fine. It sounds like you're in a studio. It's incredible. So there's so many things like that. So yeah, I personally use it a lot for content planning. I use it to identify gaps in my like episode topics. And I recently have used it to upload all of my transcripts and upload all of my download data and all of my episode titles and like information like that. And then I actually learned this from Kevin, my co-host. It was so fun. So you just ask it to identify what types of titles get the most downloads in like the first 7 days. And, you can ask it, what's my role in the podcast? And what's my co-host role in the podcast? And it kind of like gives you your identity as a co-host of like, okay, this is the avatar that I am filling for my audience. And so, for us, we've got Kevin, who's like the big ideas guy, and he's talking about like the industry as a whole. And then we've got Albin, and he's like the deep dive guy. He's nerding out about all these like little things that I don't care about, but it's interesting to a lot of people. And then I'm the person who's coming in who is not as technically minded. I'm not going to get in the weeds about that. And I'm more of like the listener voice. And so I'm asking the questions that our listeners would be asking these guys who are much smarter than me. And it works that way. And it kind of just gives me like a reassurance of my role in the podcast. And I think that was really cool. And it also helps you identify what types of topics your listeners are most interested in. You can pull in, like, so we have a segment called Fan Mail where we read the fan mail that we get through the Buzzsprout Fan Mail feature. And we do at the end of every episode. We've started integrating our fan mail messages into the episode creation where we ask them a question. And it was really cool because we pulled in our transcripts and we talk about the fan mail on the podcast. We were able to ask the AI, what types of episodes get the most engagement? What do people talk about the most? What call to action works the best at getting people to press that text to the show button in the show notes and send it in to us, And so there's so many things like that because I'm just, you know, I'm a creative, I'm a theater kid. I'm not analytically minded. I don't know how to look for that kind of stuff. It's not in me. And so using AI as an assistant for that, where I can go to it and say, like, can you look at this data and find patterns? Like, can you help me to figure out what I can do to better serve my audience? What can I do to create better content? What kind of things am I missing here? What kind of things do I do more of? And just the how quickly it does that. I mean, I couldn't come up with that information in 5 hours if you gave me all the time. I don't know. It just it's not in me, but it's in AI. That's where it like thrives. That's what it does best. And so you just like quickly like copy and paste that information in, and it's able to extrapolate so much that I wouldn't be able to do on my own. So yeah, I would say planning, analysis, those kind of things. Love AI for that. I'm not a fan of the AI slop podcasts. I think those are going to die out. I'm not a fan of AI content on social media. Like it's getting to the point where you see a post and people are commenting and they're like, "Is this real? Is this one AI?" Because you just don't know.
Yeah.
And I think people are so fatigued by that. Like they're just sick of it. And so I think that the same thing is going to happen with podcasts. You know, when we have like these AI slot podcasts where it's just like the Notebook LM voices, people are going to get tired of it. Advertisers aren't going to like having their money on those kind of podcasts.
Right.
Like, I think it's going to fade into the mist. And so I think that really it works best as an assistant to help you with your podcasting. I don't think it can be the podcaster. I think you have to do that.
Nice. I appreciate you taking a little bit of a stand on there. I wasn't going to push you on that, but I appreciate that very much. As a podcaster who has multiple shows, I do think
Hmm.
that the personal part of it has to remain. Otherwise, what
Yes,
are we all doing here?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. All right, I love that part for sure. I got a few more questions for you, but I am curious. What you've got several shows that you have produced. You've got things you're working on. You got the family. You got everything else going on. What's next for Jordan Blair? I mean, my goodness, where are you gonna go next?
Oh gosh, I don't I'm a security person. I like security. I like feeling comfortable in my roles and in my job and in my place in society. And sometimes that like I struggle with pushing myself to go do next things. Like what's next? I'm like, I don't know. I just like being in my little hobbit hole and, enjoying my time in the Shire. I'm just gonna hang out here. You guys go forth. But I've actually been pushing myself to do more speaking engagements, which you wouldn't think that that would be scary, especially being, a theater kid. Like I love the stage and I love the spotlight and all those sorts of things. But what I've realized is I do so much better when I have like music and choreography and a script to read and I know my places, I know my cues. I don't do super well when it's Jordan on a stage, just being herself, talking to people as herself, and I might have to improvise some things, or, maybe something's going to go wrong and I have to just kind of go with it. And I don't do well with that. I do well when things are more like rehearsed. And so I've really been pushing myself to be more comfortable getting on a stage as me and saying, you know what, I know what I'm talking about. And I think that you will learn something from me, and I'm going to make it really fun at the same time. And it's not as scary as you think. And so I've been doing more of those kind of things and applying to be a speaker and stuff like that. And I'm actually getting to the point where I'm looking forward to it. I'm not like having panic attacks anymore before going on stage. Like it's I think that's really going to be like the next step for me is being more involved in like a real like in-person kind of setting for these things.
I love hearing that. I'm sure you're good at it already. I'm sure you're going to be fantastic at it. It is I've done a lot of speaking too, and it is very different. People think it's all the same thing. If you're outgoing, you're outgoing. They don't get that, when there is no music and there is nothing behind you and it's you and everybody who's watching, that you are just completely and totally like unnervingly so. I mean, you're almost naked. It's like, this is just me.
Yeah.
That's it. And there's nowhere to hide. People don't
Hmm.
quite get that exposure feeling that you have to deal with.
Yeah. And it sort of feels like you've appointed yourself to be the leader. And so everyone's looking at you like, all right, you wanted the spotlight. Now what?
What do you
And it's
got?
like,
Exactly.
yeah, like you chose to appoint yourself this. Like,
Hmm.
why are you so high and mighty that you're up there?
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of imposter syndrome because I think a lot of people don't think that. They're not sitting there thinking, all right, let's let her prove herself. They're thinking, this girl must have something cool to say. Like, let's hear her out. I'm interested in this topic. That's why I'm here. And they're, I actually was watching the Kardashians, and Khloe Kardashian hates public speaking, and she had to go to Germany to accept an award, and she had to get up on stage and give an acceptance speech. And she was just like horrified by it, so much anxiety. And it was really funny because when she was backstage, her assistant came up and was like, "Hey, they're about ready." And she's like, "How many people are out there?" And she's like, "I think it's like 200 people." And she goes, "Okay, awesome. 200 of my best friends are out there waiting for me." And I thought, wow, that is such a good way to think about it. So if you're nervous about talking to, your 500 listeners, they keep coming back. So it's 500 of your best friends are tuning in again. It's, 40 of your best friends are waiting for you and rooting for you out in that seminar or like session. And if you just kind of have that mindset shift, I think that it makes such a big difference to know that these people are rooting for you. It's all casual. Everyone's human beings. Like, you don't have to be perfectly professional all the time, and you're still going to be respected and admired.
Nice. Nice. That is great advice. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're ready to give a talk?
Yeah. I actually have a couple talks. I did one at Podcast Movement
Mhm.
last year. And it went really well. I was really happy with it. And I think that's kind of what put the fire in my butt to be like, I'm going to do more of these because it went so well and it was so much fun. And I had so many people like following up later and asking me questions. And it just, I don't know, it feels so good when you put yourself out there and you do it. And then other people are like, wow, it was really great. And you go, yeah, that was great. I did a great job. I'm going to do more of this.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, is that
So
the talk you want to go out and give? Is the one that you've given, or are you trying to put a new talk together?
I mean, it's really hard. I get a little bit of like analysis paralysis because on Buzzcast we cover everything about podcasting.
Right.
There is no stone left unturned, and I feel like I could talk about literally anything about podcasting. Like you could just ask me anything. I'm going to talk about it because I love it. I love podcasting so much, and you could just ask me any question. And so it comes to the point where when you go to figure out these talks, you're like, oh, I could talk about this. Oh, I could talk about transcripts. Oh, I could talk about monetization. Ooh, I could just talk about affiliate marketing. Oh, I could talk about listener subscriptions and all the things that you can offer. And it's just my brain starts going. And so it's like I want to submit 5 talks, but I have to pick one. And so there's there's always things like that, which oddly enough is another good thing that AI can be used for. I actually was talking to somebody and they were submitting themselves for a talk, and they were like, I don't know what to do. And they asked me. And so I gave some like ideas. And what they did was they exported their entire podcast because we have like a backup file in Buzzsprout, and it takes like 2 seconds to export all of your transcripts into a backup file. And so they exported the backup file and fed it into ChatGPT and was just like, hey, I want to submit a talk at this like conference, but I'm having a really hard time figuring out what I should talk about and, what I have a unique perspective on and what things are my strongest topics. And so they asked ChatGPT, and it was like, through all of your episodes, you have this recurring theme that one of your pillars that you really stand on is like empathy or like having like a certain tone. And it's like, so a really strong topic for you, like here's 3 things that I think you could talk about all the time. Here's some ideas of things to touch on that you've touched on other things in other episodes. And it just compiles like when you're in your own head, it's so hard to see the big picture of here's the things I'm really good at and the things I'm really passionate about and the things that I could talk about for like an hour. No problem. I could get on a stage tomorrow and talk about this. And I think when it's just you, it's hard to identify that. And so I think that that's probably something that I'm going to be doing in the future when I apply to other speaking positions is feeding in those transcripts and saying like, hey, what's my strong suit? What am I really good at here?
Nice. Nice. All right. I mean, you're finding your footing then. You're kind of building your speaker persona as you get going.
Yes.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
All the best of luck with that. If as luck would have it, we do have another podcast that is for speakers. And if you ever want to try
Perfect.
out one of your talks, or polish up on one of the ones you do now, you have a standing invitation to come on, step up to the mic anytime you want.
Hey, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll put that right in the recording right now, so that hey, I can't go back on it. There you go. But no, we'd love to have you on that one. So that's something we created just for speakers to do that kind of thing. So
Awesome.
really cool. All right. Well, I can definitely see you on stage. I mean, you've got the presence, my goodness. So I mean, I'm sure you're going to kill it. As we kind of start bringing this, to a close, I do want to make sure that everybody who wants to get a hold of you knows how. So best way to reach out to Jordan Blair, you personally, you professionally, however you want to put it out there, where can people find you?
I'm not very active on it, but I am on LinkedIn, Jordan Blair, and I'm on Twitter at Jordan Pods. I'm on Reddit at Jordan Pods. And like I said, I'm not very good at social media. So really, if you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me through Buzzsprout, or I'm always around. I'm still flitting around the Buzzsprout Facebook community group. We have like 55,000 members in there now, and I'm super active in that. So you'll see me in there if you join.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. Good enough. We'll get that out there for you. The last question I have for you is, you've been doing this a long time. You've accomplished a
Mhm.
ton, and obviously you know what you're talking about. So, what is your best piece of advice for podcasters who are out there who are not quite where you are yet?
Mhm. You know, my advice is always, and it's so interesting because this is the kind of our slogan at Buzzsprout is we always say keep podcasting. And boy, do we mean it. Because if you come in to podcasting and you're expecting immediate success and you're just gonna, have this standout show just right out of the gate, it doesn't happen. Um, it's like that whole saying that like a lot of overnight successes took years to make. And I think that that is the same with everything, including podcasting. And you have to keep at it. You have to stay consistent. You have to really keep putting a lot of your effort and your passion into it. And so make sure that when you are starting a podcast, it's actually something that you love and it's actually something that you enjoy and it's something that gives you life. And don't force yourself to fit your podcast into these boxes. We talked about the 45-minute time slot box, and this is what they say I have to do, and I have to release on Tuesdays because those are the best days. No, none of that is real. I mean, the thing is like a lot of these marketing companies, they'll analyze things and they'll say Tuesday is like the best day for podcast releases. And then so everyone switches their podcast date to Tuesday. And then suddenly it's like, well, now Wednesday is, and then everyone moves it to Wednesday. And you can't listen to that. Like just do your own thing. Don't feel pressured to create a daily podcast, a weekly podcast. Do something that is within your bandwidth to do because it's not going to be your day job. This is something that is going to be a hobby. It's going to be a passion project that is outside of, you're earning income, you're earning a living. And so you have to make sure that podcasting is going to fit into your lifestyle. You're not going to work your lifestyle around the podcast. And so it's really important to just make sure that you're setting up healthy boundaries with your podcasting. You keep at it because it's going to take a long time and a lot of effort to build up that back catalog. And then what's going to happen is someday something's going to catch. Someone's going to see something and they're going to say, "What? There's 100 episodes of this?" And they're going to go and binge all the 100 episodes. And then they're going to tell their friend, and their friend's going to tell their friend. And you just have to keep at it because it takes a long time. And some people, it just takes years, but you just need that one thing to catch. And so just make sure that you're healthy about it. Don't burn out too quickly and just keep at it. Keep podcasting.
Love it. All right. Wonderful. I knew you were going to deliver a mic drop moment for me right there. That was really,
Thank
really
you.
great. All right. Perfect. All right. Folks, podcast producer at Buzzsprout and co-host of Buzzcast, Jordan Blair. Jordan, thanks for being here today, for sharing all this stuff about you, your business, and everything else. And just, for being you openly and authentically the way you are. It was really awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Rory. I loved it.
Thanks so much. All right, folks. That's been an awesome episode of the Podcaster Nation. Folks, the reason that we have such fantastic podcasters come on here with all this great information is because this is the podcast that's about podcasters. It's for podcasters and it's done by a podcaster. And our guests are all podcasters as well. We proved again today this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.